So you can run custom reports. Of course, it is not very easy to do, and you kind of have to play around with it to get what you want out of it. So you've got your standard reports you've probably been using, and then you've got the report builder.
Right.
So the report builder will let you build custom reports. I don't know how much you've played around with it in the past. Usually, like when Guy needed something, I would go in and I would build a custom report, and I just run it through everybody's catalog as the administrator, just because it was easier than trying to tell you, you know, go here and do this and all that good stuff. But if you do want to try to build your own custom report, you can. So you would go into the report builder, and then over on the right hand side click new report. So it depends what you're trying to do. So for a project like this, you would run a copies report because you want to see each individual copy. And then there's a couple different, if you want to run patron reports or whatever you're trying to do. Sometimes you have to kind of play around with which type of report you're using to figure out which one is going to give you the information you need.
Yeah.
And then it'll ask you what information you want to include. I generally try to do as little as possible. So maybe I usually try to include some author, title, information, just because otherwise the reports get kind of hard to read.
Sometimes it doesn't end up giving you anything. It keeps saying
Yes.
nothing based on the report.
So yeah, and if you're trying to run a report and you are having problems figuring out how to get the information you need, let me know and I can go in and play around and see if I can figure it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean it's just not a user-friendly system, especially for people who have used other catalogs that are more powerful. This is really a frustrating system to use. So then you can tell it how to group the information in your items. So maybe I want to group, for this one I'd probably say publication year first and then barcode second. And you can specify what order things are in. When you're exporting to Excel, that's not such a big deal because you can play around with it in Excel. If you want a tally of what's there, you can do that. And then you can set limiters. So this is where you would say, okay, I only want items from X category. So I could say, okay, where is it? So I want the category should equal bachelor's or category equals, and Paul, this is a report I ran for you, medical administrative assistant, or category equals medical assisting, and you can just keep adding and adding and adding, and then once you get it in, you can give it a name. Items in meeting date, authors. And then I'm going to save it and run it. Once you've saved it, you can edit it. So if it's not giving you the information you need, you don't need to start from scratch. You can go in and you can edit it. Depending on how much data you're pulling from, it takes a long time. This one shouldn't take super long. And then we click View. I'm going to download it as an XML. That's what's going to let you open it in Excel. And then I think, yeah, I had to click the down arrow. Oh, okay, it's not going to let me do that. So I ended up going, I think, into, let me open up a new book, into Excel, and then from here, opening it, so it should show up in your downloads folder. There it is. So you have to open Excel first and then open the Java. I don't know why this is so freaking difficult, but failed.
Time for new catalog.
Well, we got Discovery. I was kind of impressed that that happened. Let's see if I can get this to work. try.
It's the third one, maybe? Third option? When you open it, it gives you the little box, and it says XML for the third thing.
Okay, I think this is how I did. So I think that I had to go in here and then right-click and say Open With. And then, because it doesn't give you that as an option, that would be way too easy. Let's try it this way. Go to Browse. And then you have to, of course, browse through your program files to find your Microsoft Office, wherever it should live. Find Excel. Or not. I've had problems like this opening other types of files in Excel too, so I don't know why. I'm gonna have to...
I usually use the report one instead of the XML because I've tried that too before. I could never open it. I know this seems a little bit, what should we say,
yeah,
but
so when you open it this
you
way,
can read it.
the problem is that it's harder to manipulate the data, so when you open it in
Right,
Excel,
yeah.
it's easier to work with that way. But yeah, you can do it this way too, and then it gives you everything in those categories. And this looks like it's all the journals, so it doesn't have any publication years, but then we can go in here and there's actually some with, it looks, some weird publication years here. So then you could go and you could edit it to the record too if necessary, but it's giving you barcode numbers for everything, and it's telling you, it's showing when it shows up in multiple categories. So you can play around with reports like that. I'll figure out, I know that I did it because I did that for Paul. I had it in Excel, so I have to figure out how you get it to open correctly in Excel, and I will let everybody know once I get that figured out.
Does the version have anything to do with it or no?
I just did it.
Like maybe because we're in the new version? Yeah.
I just did it a couple weeks ago, so I don't know what but I remember having problems with it when I did it then, and I should have probably taken notes about how I did it, but I didn't, so that's how I do things usually. I just have to keep reminding myself. I'm like the worst student when it comes to that kind of stuff, so. The student I hate to have is who I am, so. Any other questions?
Just one thing I wanted to comment. When I had to go back and edit, like say I couldn't find what I wanted, I had to go back and edit, it makes you rename it again. I don't know if you noticed that. You got to give it a unique name, even though you originally named it. Like if I went to edit something, let's say nothing showed up.
Oh, your report?
I went back in the file. It asks me to give it a unique name, even though I already gave it one. I don't know why it does that, but.
I don't
But
know.
you know, the screen you're on, you hit edit, then you edit
Yeah.
what you want. Then before you can rerun the report, it asks me to give it a unique name, even though I've already given it one.
Are you sure you're not
But I'm
duplicating
not-
it? I mean,
I don't know. Yes, to enter a unique name, I did, and then it wouldn't take it.
oh,
Yeah,
see, because I just
rename
edited
it.
that one. It let me go through, and if you're duplicating it, you would have to give it a unique name. But if you're just editing it,
Well, I don't know. Maybe that's what I was doing, but I don't think so. It just kept telling me it wouldn't take it when I say, okay, say, give it a unique name. It did, red message, whatever.
then I would just, make sure that you're blowing away the old reports just so that you don't get confused which one actually
Yeah,
works
right.
and which ones don't.
Yeah.
So like I said, obviously hopefully the snag it worked, and then we'll have this recorded and I can shoot this out to everybody, and so you'll have this as a reference. Otherwise, let me know if you're having problems, and I should be able to get you past whatever you're doing, or sometimes I'll just run in there and run the report you need for you, or kind of get you past that way, because I can get into everybody's catalog as an admin with the administrative login. So sometimes it's easier if I can just go in there and see exactly what's going on, and sometimes I just do it while I'm in there, and then that saves you guys the time.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Once you do your My Info and then you go in there and delete everything that's older than 2010 or before 2010, how do you, show me one more time how, and then you go and you delete all of those categories for medical, and then you create a new one. Show me again how you import my list with the cleaned up list into my new one, which is at
Okay, so once you know where you want to import something, So let's say I want to import it into, I think I got rid of all my categories. So let's say I'm going to call it the new MA category.
Okay.
So now when I go in here, I've got my new MA category, and I want to click the plus sign to add to the category.
Okay, hold on, I'm writing it down.
Okay.
Sorry. So you go into your new MA category and then you use the plus sign.
Mm-hmm. And then from here you can either add from a list, so that's what we did. So I could pick my MA list and I could populate it that way. Or if you had run a report and you had a list of barcodes and you're, like I'm pretty good with the keypad entry, I a lot of times will just enter things that way just because it's sometimes quicker for me. You could do it that way too, but if you want to do it by list, you do the MA list, click OK, and then it adds everything from that list into your category.
I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well if anything else comes up, like I said, let me know. Tamara had mentioned that I'll probably run this again because there were some people who couldn't make it, and I know those of you who don't know, Gretchen has left for another opportunity, so her replacement should hopefully be coming on board soon, so they'll probably need this as well. So then if anything...
Are you going to put this like in a screen cam or anything and send it out as well?
Yeah, I tried recording it with Snagit, but unfortunately this is the first time I've used Snagit today, so I'm hoping that it recorded everything, and then if that worked, because Tamara said apparently it costs hundreds of dollars to use WebEx to record things, so I wasn't able to use WebEx to record it, but I tried using Snagit, and we'll see if that works. Otherwise, at some point I will try to maybe come up with some documentation. I know I have some documentation for the basic import a list portion of things, but it doesn't cover everything that we went over today.
Mm-hmm.
Hey Mary, this is Paul. Can I ask you a question? When, maybe you guys all know this, when I'm going through to weed now, my medical historical collection, if I want to delete something, I mean, do I delete the copies? Do I delete the title?
You're just going to delete copies, because if you delete the title and anyone else is attached to it, you will delete all of their stuff too. Okay. So you want to make, so when you are in your catalog tab, if you go to update copies, you can delete copies, and actually I added that copy at the beginning of the session, so I'm going to go ahead and delete it. You just enter the barcode, and you can do this with your scanner too. You don't have to manually enter it. If you want to track what you're weeding, you can select that box and you click go, and it weeds it. So like I said, if you've got somebody who's good with a 10-key entry and you just want to have them manually do it, then, and that's why a lot of times I'll just rip barcodes out and I'll just sit there with a stack of barcodes and give them to a work study so you can like scan all these. But I've already boxed up and gotten rid of the actual items so that the bulk of it is gone.
Okay. So I'm just deleting the copy and that just pulls it out of the system.
Yeah, I believe
now,
if you delete...
When track is weeded, is there a way to generate a report of what I weeded?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, so it should be,
Should have asked that.
I believe in the reports, you would have a weeding log.
Oh, good.
So let's see what we've got here, if we've got anything in our weeding log. Well, first, save.
So anything that I marked to track as weeded would come up in a report if I went to the report and did library weeding log.
Yep, and then it'll let you pick your dates, and actually we are supposed to be doing that because you are supposed to be providing reports to, what is it, the CFO about what's being deleted from the catalog so that they can delete that from our fiscal reports or whatever financial people do, but you are supposed to be keeping track of that, so.
First they told me.
Well, you know, they say things and then they never follow through on it, but then what's going to happen is eventually at some point they're going to say, hey, guess what? We want those records from the past however many years that you haven't been giving them to us, and this way you will actually be able to provide them and look like rock stars, so.
Okay.
Mary, I've always done it anyway.